Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, Eric. Heading out on vacation tomorrow, so life is good.
Always good to take time to refresh yourself and rejuvenate.
Yes, maybe I'll even look and see if I can find my authentic self.
Which brings us to today's topic, which is finding your authentic self. There's been a lot of talk lately about the importance of authenticity and how you need to be authentic. But what does that actually mean? I mean, what is your authentic self? Now, of course, the answer to that isn't the same for any two people. It's a very personal thing. And it's about getting to know who you are.
Yeah, and obviously that means you actually got to look in the mirror and you got to take out a pad of paper and start working on yourself, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing to do because you're going to feel a whole lot better searching for that. And it's really not taboo to go in there and take a look at all of your qualities and talents and things you like to do and that kind of thing. It's very, very important because your authentic self is what you give to the rest of the world. And if you can't find that, and if you can't like that person in the mirror, the rest of it's not going to fall into place very well.
All right. As Chip just said, you have to like the person you see in the mirror. So it's not just knowing who you are, it's accepting who you are. And a starting point for that is to really sit down and figure it out. And that can include figuring out what you like to do, what you want to do, and then separating that from what you do because you think it's expected of you, what you do to fit in, what you do because you think others want you to do it. And there's a big difference between those two. One is about you. One is about pleasing others. And your authentic self isn't there to please others. You have to understand who you are to be happy in your own skin.
Yeah, but by finding your authentic self too, that is the way to please others because you're giving your true self to whoever is out there. As everybody out there knows who listens, is I do a lot of personal development workshops, positive mindset development, and that kind of thing. And really, what people need to do is they need to find out their purpose and their why, and that really is a function of their authentic self. And in order to do that, just as you were starting to talk about, you have to really do a self-analysis. And I actually have a sheet where I tell people just to fill in these questions, write down what your motivations are, what are your principles, what are your likes, your interests, your talents and your skills, your values and your dreams. And this is a good thing to sit down with other people because other people probably will identify things that you just do automatically, but that are really, really cool that you don't even think are cool because you don't think about it because it's second nature. And then answering the following questions, basically, when do you feel good? When do you feel most alive and joyful? What do you love to do? All those kind of things. You have to write these things down on paper and work these things in. And eventually what's going to happen is you're going to figure out really what your purpose and why is. It's going to come from your self-analysis. So it's important to start working on these things. And as always, me being the spreadsheet nerd, I recommend writing these things down on a spreadsheet so that you can sort things out and organize them later on to start writing up your purpose and passion statement.
Right. And as Chip said, it's good to do this with other people because one of the things that you really need to do to find your authentic self, and it's not as easy as I'm going to make it sound, is you need to get out of your own way. You need to be able to see yourself as others see you. And, I find it interesting when I'll be talking to people and they will tell me that, something I've done or something that I've just told them blew them away. It's absolutely amazing. And in my mind, I've never brought it up because it's just something else I did. It's not, to me, it's not that big a deal. So you need to get that feedback about things you've done that set you apart from other people. And it's not always easy for us to figure that out on our own.
No, in fact, it's more fun to do it with a group of people. We've talked, about masterminding and so on and so forth. If you have a couple of people that you want to get together with and help them inspire themselves to find their authentic selves, also, it's a great idea to just kind of sit down and do this as a group. And you start out with these group of questions that everybody has to answer to prepare for the meeting. Or you can do it with your family. You can do it with your kids. It's really cool to do this with your kids as they're growing up, because right now in this age of technology, when you're texting all the time and this kind of thing, if your children are working on their authentic selves and they keep working on that as they're growing up and just realizing the great things that they're doing, along with all the other stuff that's going on in school and all the pressures that they're going to be facing, it really, really helps to ground them and set them on the right course, because you got to work from your true self and your authentic self.
And if you do this in a group, something has to be made clear right up front. It needs to be a judgment-free zone. There's no judging these decisions, because you're not trying to create somebody that you think will please people. You're trying to find out who you really are. So you've got to get rid of all judgment. And if you're doing it yourself, you have to get rid of your self-judgment. People use the phrase guilty pleasures. Well, when you're trying to figure out what you really like and what you're interested in, you've got to forget the guilt part. If you enjoy watching reality TV, people always say that, well, it's a guilty pleasure. Well, if you really enjoy it, forget the guilt part. That's part of who you are.
Yeah, and everybody has their own guilty pleasures, but everybody also has their talents too. And one of the biggest things that you mentioned, the judgment-free zone, and a lot of times judging is a function of your own perceived lack of talents in certain areas. But the bottom line is you have talents that other people don't have too. So if you sit down and instead of comparing what you do with other people or what you can't do with other people, and instead of pointing out and complimenting them on their positive traits, it's really, really a great way to set the tone for not only doing this, but also for the way that you handle things during your life. Because the bottom line is every time you're comparing yourself to somebody, there's also something that you can do that other people can't do that is more going to offset that. So really, again, it's important to look in that mirror and appreciate that wonderful person that's there, because you are your only you, and you are fantastic, just like everybody else who you think may be better than you in other ways.
All right. And finding your authentic self isn't a competition or a comparison. It's about looking at who you actually are. And if you're doing it in a group, who your friends or your family really are. So, yes, you have to do it without judgment. You can't compare yourself, because the fact of the matter is, comparing any two people, you're really comparing apples and oranges, and it's not the same. And I'm actually reminded of this cartoon where there's a teacher in front of a group of animals. And there's a horse, a monkey, and a fish. And the caption on this cartoon is, "We're going to judge your intelligence based on how well you can climb this tree." Well, the monkey obviously can climb the tree great. The fish, the horse, not so much. Does that mean a monkey is inherently better than a horse or a fish? Of course not. It's a false metric. So you're not looking to compare yourself to others. You're looking to find what interests you, what you like, what you're good at, where your talents lie. And everybody's got them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more that you acknowledge that in others, the more that they're going to acknowledge that in you too. And it just makes the whole scenario a whole lot better for everybody concerned. We've talked a few times as far as doing prep work for this. Again, sometimes we're our own worst enemies, and beat ourselves up. We've talked before about a victory log, which is writing down everything great that's ever happened to you in your whole life, all of your accomplishments. And you're going to come up with pages and pages and pages. And again, I would put that in a spreadsheet so you can sort out the different areas. But that's a fantastic way to start. And then doing a daily gratitude journal to just update yourself on everything that you're grateful for, including working with others on, finding your authentic self, that kind of thing. Those are great tools to maintain that positive mindset. Because once you get that thing formed, you definitely need maintenance mechanisms. And the best way to do that is to just identify things that you're grateful for and things that are going well for you on a daily basis.
Absolutely. It's important to pay attention to those things. Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in what's gone wrong. You really need to get yourself caught up in what's going right. Now, to really start exploring what it is you like, who you are, one of the exercises that I like to start people out on is simply called 5 Whys. And in the search for your authentic self, you ask yourself about something you like. Name something you really enjoy. Then ask yourself why. Why do you enjoy that? And you actually ask yourself why 5 times, each time digging a little deeper. And when you dig deeper, not only do you find out what's at the core of what it is you like, generally, you find there's a talent there or a skill. Why do you like this? Well, I'm really good at it. Well, what are you really good at? And keep asking that why until you get down to the core. It's a great way to help figure out why certain things appeal to you, which helps you to figure out what your authentic self is. And it's also a good way to find talents you may not have even known you have.
Yeah, and again, this is a good thing to do in a group atmosphere. And we've talked about this principle, not just for finding your authentic self, but in business, as far as addressing problems or addressing this or addressing that. The more that you ask why, the deeper you're going to get into it. And it's really amazing if you actually do this, how deep you can get into this and how things just all of a sudden appear to everybody there that you never would have even thought of if you weren't going through this in the first place. So doing this as a group is really, really great also. But again, if you're working on yourself and you're really doing this and taking the time to go through this process, it's really of a measurable help to you.
Right. And the deeper you go, the more you learn about yourself. And I've actually had a question asked when I've worked with people to do this. Once they get to a certain point, they start getting hesitant. And the question becomes, what are you afraid to find? Because you're really digging deep into who you are. And most times, as you do that, you'll find things that maybe you forgot, maybe things you're not happy about, things that you've done that you're not proud of. But as I said before, it has to be a judgment-free zone. So even if there's something you're not proud of, something you'd rather were different, you need to be able to get to a point where you can accept these things as this is who I am, or this is what I did, or this is what happened. And even though I'm not happy about it, even though it was a terrible time in my life, even though it was a terrible thing, all of that helped to shape the person you are. So who you are right now is built on all of the good and the bad that came before. So you can't be afraid to find the bad with the good.